Well, cheers. It's been a few days, but I'm here. The only reason I wasn't was I had work on. I had a serious audiobook project, but I'm delighted to say it is now complete. And my publisher over in Nebraska, USA, cheers to her, and the good author who employed me. So, yeah, 14 hours. For every hour of audio, you can probably outlay 2 to 3 hours, more 3 hours editing. So I was between the jigs and the reels. In fact, all weekend, pretty much all weekend I was in here. I was just not at the races, folks. So it's day 56, give or take those 4 or 5 days between holidays and work that I haven't been able to manage to get it up for you. I'd like to say hello to the handful of people who are here regularly. So, hi Nigel. Hello to the lovely Susan A. up, Ecky Thump, Yorkshire Lass. Mick Manning, no relation. And of course, Jerry as well makes an appearance every so often on YouTube. Comments below. I'm not going to put up the email banner tonight because I just haven't got time. If you want to email me, and I love to hear from you on email, so far only Susan's done it. You can get me at thismuchistrue. Write it down, it's a good one. Thismuchistrue at protonmail.com. Proton mail.com. Thismuchistrue at protonmail.com. All right, if you want to go for the comments below, that's okay as well. Kind of like and subscribe as well if you do listen to these and don't react to them, because it all helps. It all helps. It helps me decide whether I want to continue on this project or not. We shall know in about 90 days' time. I'm also available for children's parties and bar mitzvahs. No, I'm also up on TikTok here and there, Mark Manning Media. Crazy stuff going on with voice filters. I've gotten a fondness for them recently. It's a lot of fun. You know, I could put on a kind of an aristocratic voice, but when I put the filter to it, it's like 10 times better. Wow. So I'm not sure what the weather is like in your corner of the world, but spring is showing its first signs of kicking into action here. I planted some bulbs, green fingers and all that I am, around Christmas, like within a few days of Christmas time, and they're beginning to show. So nice like tulips and daffodils, I would hope, shall surround the studio of loving awareness before too long. So my first bumblebee about 3 days ago, out over somebody's conservatory out here. A big bumblebee, huh? You never saw bumblebees in February before. So I don't know whether it's to do with, well, I'm not a big fan of the whole global warming phenomenon. I have my doubts about how that's been, let's say, foisted on us regularly as an excuse for all kind of curtailments. Yeah, there's too much CO2. Well, you know, we talk about fossil fuels, but where did they came from? They came from massive, gigantic, dinosaurs. I'm sure they had a lot of farting to do, and Chicken Licken wasn't running around saying the sky's going to fall in. Anyway, I'm not going to go there because you'll just say I'm a grumpy old 60-year-old, and you could be right. I got a nice shower there a minute ago, and hence my garb. I don't know if you're looking at this or listening to it, but I have my robe on. Who was I listening to? Melinda Gates being interviewed by Kirsty Wark, I think. And I have to say, Melinda Gates, you are sound. A very together woman. Seemed totally unaffected by wealth. I suppose you could say, well, you know, she can afford to be. But no, I mean, she espoused family values which she grew up in, and it all had to come to values. And herself and Kermit the Frog had to part ways. But she's just on the verge of 60 as well, and she's looking forward to it, I'm sure. She'll never have to work a day in her life. But you can tell, you know, when I went through the whole pandemic thing, I had certain views, again, which might not be popular, about Gates pushing what he did and how he did. But listening to that woman tonight, you can have people wrong sometime. I once shared an aeroplane with them, and they were in economy, by the way. Yeah, Bill launched Windows 95 in Dublin, and I was his computer guy working with his team. And I flew to London the next day, and he was on economy. And Melinda, they were only, what, probably in their 30s then. Melinda was asleep on his lap. How romantic. If there was bodyguards, I didn't see them. He had a kind of donkey jacket on, and he got off in London like everybody else. So, I hope I haven't left anybody out. Of course, Ray as well. Ray's Rants, do check it out. It's on YouTube here, as well as Podomatic or one of those, or Podbean, I think, Ray. I love listening to Ray. Ray does put me to sleep at times in the nicest possible way. Yeah, anyone seen new cars around as well? You know, on this side of the ocean, they have the 2 number, so they have 2-1. So we saw a few tonight, 214, something like that. Last year was weird because there was a 231 at one point, wasn't there? 231. Anyway, I'm not into cars particularly so, except I want to say I have a kind of an erection for a car. And it's an old one. And I don't really, first of all, I like the name. And then the look as well. What am I talking about? Sorry, I know I'm not being sexist, but maybe ladies aren't into this. The Jensen Interceptor. Like if I had like a minuscule of Bill Gates's money, you can get one, I think, you can get them for maybe $9,000 or so. A Jensen Interceptor with the walnut and the leather. Sure, it probably behaves like a tank, but what a car, what a name, what a look. I've actually went through quite a few luxury kind of cars in my time, due to work largely. They'd be company cars. So I have had my BMWs. I had Mercedes. I'm not like virtue signaler or showing off here. Most, the Mercs and stuff were my own, were generally second hand, but they were lovely. But I did have a Volvo 740 company car, and it was huge. It had the heated seats when nobody else had. And the girl that I was going out with, the girl, that's so Irish, isn't it? I was going out with the girl at the time. I was showing her a few steps. I was showing her more than that, but let's say she was well-heeled. She was kind of snobby, and her old man owned some big company or whatever. And she'd say to me, "Mark, are you bringing the tank around?" That's what she called it, a tank. Volvo 740. What was I? 24, 25 years of age? Are you bringing that tank? But she was happy then. I got a BMW handed to me afterwards. BMW 518. Anyway, let's not talk cars. Can I talk personal stuff to you? Because I would like to think that's the kind of relationship we have. I wish I had more interaction from you guys. Talk to me about stuff that's on your mind. Today I want to talk to you about a well-hidden nervous breakdown. Yeah, and it was me. I'm convinced, with hindsight being 2020, that I had a breakdown in full view of everybody, but unbeknownst to them, because I was the functioning depressive. And you know the way at times people say, "Oh, well, I regret, je ne regrette rien. I regret nothing." Well, I do regret. I regret that I let myself get into that state. And it was at a time in my life, in my early 40s, where I should have been living it up, folks. But I was conditioned in the suit and tie and the corporate world, and suddenly I found myself out of it. Now, I kind of volunteered myself out of it because there was messing going on at the time, but I had been used to being a good provider. And suddenly, this was before I found voiceover has been a revelation. Anyway, I don't want to go there, but yeah, that was my ultimate salvation. Voiceover and radio, really. But voiceover has been good to me. But back then, I literally was, I was flying the flag for some serious corporate companies and turning over millions It's not an exaggeration to say millions of euro before that, punts worth of IT equipment and what have you. And had a pretty good lifestyle as a result. But it was always, you were very much naked. You either performed or you didn't. I remember being taken on in sales, and that's what the boss said to me. The head of Xerox at the time, I'll name him, Peter Plant, total gentleman. And Peter says to me, you know you're going to be naked out there. And what he meant was, you either perform or you don't, and you're toast if you don't on any consistent basis. But if you do perform, you have it made. I mean, in your time, when you become a little bit of a low onto yourself, when you're consistently bringing in business, and your time is your own. So, as I used to say, at its best, it was like not having a job and just being well paid. But money was never the motivator for me. It was a happy incidental. It was the chase. But I got into from never appreciating commission to really understanding it, and then trying to just better myself on the rates of commission I'd earn. And when I got that money, by the way, it always just went into the house, give it to my missus and go, do what you want with it. It was never, I want this and I want that. It was, no, here, take it. Anyway, I found myself on my lonesome at what should have been a really happy time in my life. But I descended into a moroseness because I felt I wasn't providing. And my wife used to say to me, Mark, chase your radio now. Here's your chance. We're fine. And we were. It was all pre-bust, you know. Everybody had shares and a bit of property and bonuses. It was okay. We were stable. And she was saying, this is your chance. But I went in on myself. But the thing was, this was coinciding with the opportunity of a lifetime, because my daughters were young. They were kids. They were 4 and 6 maybe when all that shit kicked off. And I adore them, and I still do. I won't show you pictures of them when they were that age, but they're looking at me now because it's their business. You know, I'm not going to make capital out of my kids for a view on YouTube. They were darlings, and they still are, but they're grown up. You probably know one's just back from New York and she's off there again. The other's studying in Spain. They're young women now, but they were my little girls, and we had a lot of fun. You can imagine. I mean, I used to make up a club, you know, and I gave them their own pendants for around their neck. We called ourselves the Chicken Heads. I know, bear with. I literally would take, you know, the Kellogg's box. I'd cut the chicken out of it and made a little piece of... It's going to lose a lot in translation, but it was like, we're the Chicken Head gang. And these little darlings would be around, and, you know, if they weren't with a skipping rope, they'd have their scooters and their Game Boys and all the little things and the different little uniforms, the gym slip and then the little tracksuit as well. And I'd bring them in and out of school every day. And my wife used to say, would you cop on? She said, we're saving a fortune by you looking after the kids on after school. And yet I functioned. But I wasn't good. And I remember on a beautiful summer's day taking my 2 daughters down to the park, and you'd see them on the merry-go-round and the monkey bars and the slides. And outwardly I was having fun with them, and I'd sit back and I'd look at them. And inwardly I was crucifying myself, lacerating myself for not providing more fucking money to the household. These precious moments, like that song, Don't Let the Good Times Pass You By, I was letting them trundle by in abundance. Now, I held out well because I did, and you can tell, I love my kids. And I loved being with them, and I did take it on board, but mentally I was in a bad place for a few years probably. And in the morning, I made a mistake one time. I'll tell you what a mistake was. Do you remember there was an old song years ago, "Don't tell your secrets to a friend, they all desert you in the end." I'm trying to think of the name of the band. Some of you will remember what I'm talking about. Flock of Seagulls. Yeah, that was the group anyway. I can't remember the song. And so I had this, and I'm heavy now, but by God, I put on a lot of weight. I was touching 18 stone back then. That my American cousins is around 240 pounds. I'd see them all off to school. I'd see my wife off to work, and I'd be suited and booted, and then I just couldn't handle what I was playing at. Supposedly out trying to get business for kind of homespun businesses I had. This was before voiceover, the saviour. And I did a few things. I worked in a television station, and I loved that, but the bust really put an end to that. Yeah, I did enjoy the TV. And gimpy things going on with ropey people that were wankers, basically, and you knew it, and you'd hitch your wagon to whatever Mickey Mouse startup they had. And anyway, look, the routine was for a while I'd be suited and booted, and then I just couldn't face the world, and I'd go to bed. I would go to bed, and you might think that's a really lazy thing to do, but I couldn't handle things. And I wouldn't even do, you could say, lazy fucker, get out of your bed. It wasn't about sleeping. It was about being in a catatonic state. It was like a fitful lying there, perspiring until it was 4 o'clock or whenever to collect the kids, and then a quick shower, up, fooling nobody but myself, putting a brave face on it like I'd been busy all day, whereas I had really I'm not doing the teary-eyed thing. I'm trying to figure it out, because it was a fucking waste of time, folks. And I had it all. And because you get conditioned, if I leave you with nothing else, you are not your job. You are not your job. You are a multifaceted person. I've said to you before, if I ever met any of you for coffee, I'm sure I'd walk away with 5 or 6 great things about you weren't even aware of. Most people have many little knives on their Swiss Army experience. They're multifaceted. And I thought, no, you have to have the salary, you have to have the car, you have to have the suit, the holidays, all this old bollocks, which, by the way, we didn't exactly miss out on. We still got our holidays. We didn't starve. I certainly didn't. And the kids had a great time. But I remember that day in the park. I so remember it. I remember imploding. But outwardly, I mean, it's funny. I was throwing away some stuff a second ago and just pushing it out of the way. And what book did I pick up? I can't remember. The psychology, or D. Lang, was it? The Divide Itself. So I was living that divide itself. I don't know if any of you can identify, particularly if you're a younger person, with what I'm talking about. But trust me, there will come a time, if you're lucky enough, you realise that time is getting on, and so are you. Time and tide wait for no man. And really, don't let the good times pass you by. No amount of money would have made me part with my kids, or my good lady wife, who stuck with me through thick and thin. God love her, she was under dental surgery today. 10 injections she had. We managed to get out for a walk tonight, too, all the same, once the anaesthetic started to wear off. We'll probably be facing the empty nest for the first time soon. That's going to be... it's going to be all right. I used to think we'd just be looking at each other, but based on our walks together, and we always have something to talk about, we could be on the verge of a really, really good time now. Plus the business here, this voice thing. I'm not trying to sell it to you. It's taken off isn't a word, but it's consistent, and some of it's very well paid. Certainly, you see, in voiceover, you're the raw material. You are the product, And to get a call from a lady today and saying, Mark, you did a great job at narrating that. Self-praise is no praise, but she was appreciative. Yeah, but look, that's it. I don't know. You guys, please talk to me either through YouTube or thismuchistrue@protonmail.com. I'd love to hear from you, because we're all only passing through, amigo. Remember that. We're all only passing through. Good night.